Hey, sorry. I was in the other one, like a dum-dum.
Got it.
Stuff. Let me go put the dog out. That way she doesn't bark. Be right there.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? We haven't seen each other in quite some time.
You're right, we haven't. It's been a very busy last, I would say, like almost 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I just went back to work after having my second baby. So I just finished up my maternity leave. I have two babies under two. They are about 18 months apart, barely. And it's wild. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild. It's fun. It's scary. It's crazy. It's nerve-wracking. It's all of these emotions. So
Yeah, so tell me more. Boys, girls.
yeah,
I need all the story, all the
all the
details.
all the details.
All the
So well, we chose not to find out the sex of our first baby after our miscarriage because we just were so happy that we were pregnant, that I was pregnant and everything was going well. And so we just wanted that little surprise. And so and my husband comes from a long line of boys, only boys. There's no girls in this family. And so I just always assumed I was going to be a mama of boys. And you know, I deliver and they lay this baby on my chest and I'm, delirious after 48 hours of labor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Not exactly the labor I wanted, but that's okay. And I had to like lift her little leg, and that's how I found out that she was a girl. And it was this sweet little moment. And and then Jeremy, or my husband's family, came in, and everyone's crying because he told them out in the waiting room what the sex of the baby was, and everyone's just kind of over the moon. And she's the little princess of the family, and everything pink and yellow and purple, and I'm trying to squeeze in some blue because it's my favorite color in there, because I don't want her in nothing but bubblegum pink, but I gotta let grandma have a little bit too. So, and then I was around, my daughter was around 10 months when we decided to start trying, because we thought, well, it took so long,
Yeah.
and I thought that it was just going to take a long time. And I got pregnant the first month. And so that's why they're about 18 months apart.
Okay. And then
Um,
how did that pregnancy go for you?
Pregnancy was okay. I was a little more tired. I didn't get to take my afternoon naps because I had to, I was running after this other little person. Right. Um, but pregnancy went pretty well. It was normal. No big issues. Delivery was not as long,
Okay.
thankfully,
Good.
only like 30 hours. And I got that epidural right away. Uh,
Okay.
I can't, and any friend, I am the unspoken person for an epidural, and I'm plugging it hard.
Which
It was
which
a
was
much
a
more enjoyable experience.
Totally, which was a huge shift for you, from talking about the first pregnancy and how you wanted that to go and envision it. So,
Yes, the difference between the first pregnancy and the second pregnancy, as far as delivery and labor, and I had no expectations for the second pregnancy. I had no rose-colored glasses, right? I
right.
just wanted to get that epidural and be as comfortable as I possibly can, and try to deliver not vaginally,
Mhm.
and that was my goal, and I was able to accomplish that, and so that was great. um but now I have these two little people that are mine, and that I made. And it's it feels like a little bit of a full circle from where I started.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear a lot of just pride. Just a lot of, excitement and pride, and then I also hear a little exhaustion too.
Oh yes, very much so. um like I said, I just recently, within the last few weeks, went back to work.
Oh, okay.
I was able to take off a little tiny bit longer with my son than I did with my daughter.
Okay.
So just another month. So he's, just shy of, just a little over 4 months.
Okay.
And I am struggling in that
Okay.
way. I have these two little people that I'm in charge of, right? And I have to go to work, or, my day starts, I have to wake up, I pump so I can make sure babies has, food when I leave, and I'm not, because I'm the food source, right? And then I have to commute into work, right? And the commute is killing me. It's long, it's arduous. And then I get to work and I'm trying to, shift gears and be professional and be that, the manager that I am, and have to be there for my people and all of that. And then I have to like somehow find time in the middle of the day to go pump. And I literally pumped once this week. I pumped in a closet, like a dark closet that the light was like flickering, like horror movie flickering.
Ugh.
And I'm sitting there trying to relax, to be able to pump, to let the milk come, all of that. And I'm in like a weird closet, and I'm just praying and hoping that like no one's going to walk in and see this debacle of the situation. Right. It's just comical. And then the other day I didn't have time to pump because I had back-to-back meetings, but
Okay.
I was so uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
that I had to pump on the drive home. And I'm stuck in like bumper to bumper traffic pumping, and I drive a small car, which anyone in a bigger car can directly see in. And there's no doubt there's multiple people that saw me doing that. And they're just like awkwardly staring. And I'm just like, I have nowhere to go. And I'm just like, yep, enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Like, this is what it's come to.
This is what it's come to. This is
Yeah.
what it's come to. So
And it's like, do you feel like you're getting the support that you need at work, or are you really kind of having to fight to get that time to take care of yourself, take care of, pumping, take care of your needs?
I mean, I work in a very male dominated workplace
Mhm.
that don't necessarily understand that component to things. Um, I have a boss that, obviously has to be supportive because it's the kind of the law, right? Around pumping and taking time to do that. But you definitely feel the pressure that that's frowned upon,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
No, nothing outwardly, nothing where it would be considered like discriminatory or anything like that, right? It's just like, oh, all right, go what you need, do what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
so,
not ideal.
got it. On a scale of like 0 doesn't bother you at all, 10 like over the top, need to, file an HR complaint, how much stress does it give you?
I would say like a 3 to 4 stress
Okay.
level.
Okay.
Annoyance, a 9, right? But annoyance is something very different, right?
Okay.
In this day and age, I feel like that shouldn't have to be a weird fight or an argument, but nonetheless, it is.
Hmm.
Um, but I think, I have other friends that are kind of going through the same process where they full on had to just stop breastfeeding because it was not conducive to the job at
Hmm.
all. And so they had to make that decision. And so at least in that way, it gives me a little perspective and at least helps me kind of reframe it a little bit for myself.
Okay. Good word. Good,
Yeah.
good therapy skills, reframing that for yourself. So
Yeah.
what does
I
that
learned
look
it from
like?
someone. I don't know who.
I don't know.
Mhm.
Who knows? Um, what does that look like when you say reframe it?
I think what I mean by that and how I'm trying to look at it is that there is some privilege in my situation, in my work situation, where I am able to take the time to, go and do this, to go do this for my son. And I was able to do it, for a year for my daughter as well.
Hmm.
Um, some of it's frankly just determination on my part that I'm going to do it, right? I made that decision. It's important to me. I'm going to do it. Um, but it's just also trying to remember that not everyone has essentially, I guess, the privilege that I have, right, in that respect, or at least with the job that I have. So
Yeah. So it sounds like, when you reframe it for yourself and you kind of put it in this, you know, getting that opportunity, right, or privilege, that helps kind of diminish some of the stress. I don't want to say take it all away, right, but decrease it a little bit.
Absolutely. I think so.
Hmm.
Yeah, it definitely does help with the stress level. Not so much the annoyance, right? But that is what it is. So
Got it. And any other aspects of the job that you feel like you're struggling with, or that are leading to the stress of this kind of, early motherhood stage?
I, it's a little bit of everything. Again, now I was talking to my husband about this, and I was
Hmm.
like, when you get to go to work, you get to go to work and you get to go and be professional and you get to go and be, who you are at work, right?
Hmm.
And then when you get to come home, you're dad, right?
Right.
There's this very distinct separation.
Hmm.
And there isn't a distinct separation, I think, for me at this stage, because I'm constantly having to find this balance of all the things that I have to do to make sure that I'm prepped to go home to take care of babies. For instance, like the pumping and all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I feel guilty when I'm at work because I'm not with my kids.
Hmm.
I feel guilty when I'm at home because did I give my job everything that they needed of me for that day? Right? Am I still, who I was as a professional before I had babies and everything else? Am I still providing like the job at the same level and skill?
Hmm.
And I think I am, but
Hmm.
there's this constant tug and pull.
Got it. And so, with this guilt, like that mom guilt is no joke, huh? It's crazy.
It
Crazy.
is
And I use that term lightly, not, not to be hyperbolic, but it feels crazy, right? Not clinically crazy.
absolutely. It feels like it doesn't matter what I do in the day. If I rocked that interview or I rocked that meeting and I just, I felt like my old, Sarah, right? Prior to
Hmm.
babies. And then I still, and I, and then when I go home, I'm just so depleted that I don't know if I'm giving everything I need to these little people that really do truly need me as well, right?
Hmm.
I I'm trying to maintain this this dual identity a
Yeah.
little bit, and I don't feel like I'm doing a great job at it. If I do a good job in one aspect, I feel like I'm not doing well in the other.
Okay. Do you feel like there's some sort of depressive symptoms where you feel unmotivated, you're feeling down in the dumps, it's hard to get out of bed?
Not so much not being able to get out of bed. I can get out of bed because I have to, right? I have to get up. I have to, they need all of these different things from me. And the
Mhm.
same thing with my job. Like I still need to go, you know, bring home a paycheck so I can support childcare, bills, all of the things that I'm responsible for.
Sure.
Um, but I do feel sad. There are moments when I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling really anxious,
Okay.
right?
Does it come from or let me reframe that question. Do you feel like the sadness is intermittent, you don't quite know what brings it on, or is there a direct link? For example, I'm working 8-hour days or 10-hour days, and then I go home, I feel guilty, like you said, right? Because you're leaving babies, you have to go to work, then you feel guilty that you're not sure if you're doing everything you need to do at work, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah.
And then do you feel sad, or do you notice that it's a different process for you?
I think there are days when it feels a little more intermediate where it just kind of comes on out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Going back to that perfectionism that I am constantly battling, I think if I feel like I didn't perform something the way I think I should have,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then that's when the feelings come on even more so. And it feels like a failure, and it feels really sad. And it feels like, how am I going to do this for the next, 20 plus years?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So does that extend out to more than just work and home and babies, right? More than work and mothering? Do you feel like that in your friendships, in your relationship with your spouse?
Um, my poor husband probably is not getting everything that he needs, because I have these two little people that constantly need something, right? So I'm sure that there is probably some guilt with that as well. Friendships wise, I think I'm maintaining that enough where I feel that my friends are getting what they need from me, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm doing play dates with moms with the babies, and so that helps.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
mostly work and babies, just trying to find the balance of those two.
Got it. You feel like you're trying to be super mom, super woman all the time?
Yes, 100%. 100%. That I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do
Yep.
at warp speed all the time,
Uh-huh. At 100%, right?
at 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would it be like if I said, hey, there's actually a model, it's Winnicott, called the good enough mother. And it's not like, oh, it's good enough. Who cares? It's at what point do you say, this is all that I can give without compromising myself? And it has to be good enough, right? So is that 85%? Is it 95%? But at what point can I say to myself, this is good enough? So when you hear that, like I can kind of see that body language. You're like, oh, that feels so awful, right? So like, where are you getting stuck in that idea of, hey, Sarah, you can do things to a place where it doesn't have to be perfect?
I think it's going against, a little bit of my personality, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I've had friends say to me that, look, like, there are days when you don't always hit it out of the park,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are days when, you get frustrated with the kids, or there's days when you get frustrated with the husband or the work or whatever it is. And that's okay too. So I want to hear more about this. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Tell me more. Yeah. So again, it really is going working against that need for perfectionism, right? So um, sometimes it even transcends to I don't take care, I haven't showered in 2 weeks, right? I don't get to go to the bathroom by myself. I have these little people attached to me 24/7. I've got to rip them away so I can go to work, right? All of this stuff that's coming up,
Right.
and we look to find the perfect solution. If I work harder, if I work longer hours, if I find more time, right? If I don't shower, if I don't take the 5 minutes to take a quick shower, right? It gives me 5 more minutes with babies or with my spouse. Or do you see what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that need to get it right and be perfect sometimes drives the sadness. Do you feel like that resonates for you?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Um, I constantly find myself sacrificing what I need of myself, so I can give, the other 5 minutes to the baby, or to,
Mhm.
my daughter, who's running around, or take her to the park for the 5 minutes, or take her outside for a little bit of the walk, right? Instead of just sitting down.
Mhm.
I wanted to do that so bad the other day. I walk in the door, I'm like, I just want 5 minutes. And my husband was able to pick them up from daycare. And so I didn't have to do that task. And I was like, cool, I'm going to get home and I'm just going to sit for like 5 minutes and close my eyes. And the timing was going to be that he wasn't going to be quite home yet. And so I was going to have that 5 minutes of like peace and quiet. And I walk in the door and there they are, all three of them, just like bright-eyed, staring at me, smiling big. And they're just like, mama's here. And I was happy. Like, obviously I should be happy, but I also was like, damn, like I just wanted that 5 minutes. But instead of me just saying, hey, I'm going to go upstairs, I'm going to take 5 minutes, I was like, let's go to the park, let's take him to this, it was a good day, so I sacrificed myself. So yeah, you're right.
And so then that's just, so I'm keep checking in with you about the sadness, right? So is that when the sadness sets in? Do you feel that I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel shame or guilt about feeling disappointed that you didn't get the self-care?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I felt like this immediate wash of like sadness. But I was like putting on a big smile.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I'm at the park, I'm pushing, my daughter like on the swing. And I'm like, you have exactly what you asked for and what you strive for how many years did you struggle? You have your rainbow baby here, healthy, happy, everything that you had dreamed about and wished for. And you're being selfish because you wanted 5 minutes.
Wow. Big, I mean, lots of negative self-talk, right? You're being selfish. You should feel, you
Yes.
know, lots of negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Where do you think you're failing?
I don't know, because that's the hard part, right? Because I didn't want to, I want to continue to work. I think that's important. I like my job. Um, but then, like I said, I feel guilty when I'm not with the kids. I feel guilty when I'm at work because I'm not focusing 100% on, on the job at hand, because I'm, texting the daycare provider. Can you send me a picture of the baby? How they doing? That kind of thing. Right. I know it's normal.
Mhm.
And I talk to other girlfriends that are going through the same exact thing. Um, but it makes me sad. It makes me sad.
Do you ever give yourself to self space to just feel sad, to lean into it a little bit?
I don't know. I think I'm a little maybe scared of the emotion of it.
Okay.
Because if I really sit and kind of think about it, then maybe I'll feel even more sad.
Okay.
And I don't know if I want to, I don't know if that's comfortable to go there.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So if you were to lean into it and feel it, right? You gave yourself, I don't know, a 10 minute, 10-minute time limit. Said, okay, for the next 10 minutes, I'm allowed to feel whatever I want to feel and really lean into it and then say, okay, at the end of 10 minutes, I need to refocus, reframe, right? Kind of
Mhm.
push that restart button and do something else. Does that feel scary?
I think sometimes because it makes me feel that um, I should be grateful.
Ah, okay. Boy, it's like you said in the beginning of today, full circle. Remember when you first started coming in with the losses, and we were talking about you really just needed to learn how to give yourself grace and space, right? Remember I don't know if you remember that. It was a long time ago, but this idea of grace and space, how could you utilize that now?
I mean, I've lost sight of that for sure. Yes,
Okay.
I remember. So answer your question. Yes, I remember saying that. Um, yes, I practice it. But I think I might have lost it a little bit along this whole motherhood path, right? So you're right. I think I need to figure out how to do that again for myself.
What would that look like for you now, right? Having these two little babies.
I think, one, if that situation happens again, that 5 minutes, right, where I was just really looking forward to sitting down or closing my eyes or whatever, I need to be strong enough and brave enough to say like, you know what, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to go upstairs, walk to the park with the kids. I'll be with you guys in 10.
Mhm.
Right. So I think that's something I could do.
Okay.
I think my husband and I have not had very many date nights
Okay.
since these babies. I think we had our first date night when my daughter was 9 months old.
Mhm.
Because I just wanted to be with her all the time. And I feel guilty when I was at work and all that kind of stuff. Right. But
Right.
so maybe I need to do that more adult time, more date nights, remember who I was outside of motherhood.
Okay. Do you feel
So
do you feel anxious when you leave her? Not necessarily to go to work, but when you leave her for date nights, do you worry about their well-being? Again, that mom guilt is real, right? So, what comes up for you?
not their well-being, because I know that they're in good hands. They're with my best friend, or they're with a few select people.
Mhm.
Um, Guilt in the respect that again, I should just be staying home with them, right? I should be.
Yep, there it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
don't
who's
even think I realized I did that.
yeah, whose voice is it? Your voice? Is it a coach? Is it mom? Is it like what all the books tell you or social media? It sounds finger pointing like, oh, Sarah, you should be.
Probably a little bit of it all, right? So in internal, personal, negative talk, you know, probably Pinterest, social media, all of it, right? Like everyone seems that they have it together, and I'm just over here kind of floundering sometimes. Um, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
So really, I think tracking that when that messaging is coming up, right, and going back to your thought stopping of, visualizing a stop sign. Okay, stop, take a breath, right? And then not why. Anytime you say why, you go back into this reprocessing. And so that negative cycle or this spinning happens,
right.
right? But what's next? Okay, stop, take a breath. What do I need to do next to
Right.
get me out of this negative headspace, right? And that's not to be dismissive or pretend it doesn't exist, right? To sort of stop that spinning or this, the sadness, the anxiety, the guilt. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah, it's thought stopping. Um, I know that I was practicing that when we were talking previously. And so I think, again, if you're not doing it all the time, you lose it, right? It's muscle
Yes.
memory, so to speak.
It is, and I often will use a car analogy. Like, remember learning how to drive a car, and there were so many things to track and, knowing the rules, and it's a whole body experience, right? There's an intellectual component, there's a physical component, there's this, overwhelming anxiety and nerves trying to figure it out. And then now you probably don't even think about it. You get in the car, you drive to work, you come home, and sometimes, like, I know for me, I'm like, I will forget. Oh, yeah, I actually did that. I got there okay and I got home okay, but I don't necessarily have a memory of put the key in the ignition, turn the engine on. It's that kind of a thing, right? Where if you're not doing the skills on a daily basis, we lose them. But the
Right.
other part of it is that we change, we're not static, and the skills have to change. And so a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I forgot I knew how to do that thing. Like maybe I should try that thing again because it when it works and it works well, we just stop doing it. Right? Because the problem doesn't exist for a while, right? And so kind of that grace and space piece sounds like that worked really well for you. And then now you're kind of moving into this postpartum stage and mama of two little ones, like you said, two under two, that grace and space piece that maybe you didn't need for the last year and a half, you need to kind of reintroduce,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Because I mean, the problem, so to speak, was solved, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had I had this healthy baby. Everything was beautiful and wonderful. And, it was stressful in different ways, but it was in having to do all this balancing and this fatigue that I'm kind of feeling, right? Of having just these two little people that constantly, like I said, need me, and on all the other obligations that I have going on.
Yeah, and then, kind of tracking your own, mental well-being and mental health, being able to ask for what you need, right,
Right.
from your support system, whatever that looks like for you. It's a lot. And then when you talk about the sadness, some of that's hormonal, right? And some of it is situational. Like you
Right.
said, it comes from that guilt. So, starting to track, where's the sadness coming from? Is it just that my hormones are off still and I'm still, I'm not regulated, I'm fluctuating up and down, right? Or is it something where this situation is really making me sad and that maybe I have some control over, right? Maybe I don't, right?
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. Um, I do need to figure out how I can advocate for myself as much as, taking care of everything else that I have to do.
Right.
Um, and my girlfriend told me, like, the silly analogy, but it's true. Like, put the mask on yourself before, when you're sitting down and like the plane's crashing down. I'm just like, why? This mask is not going to help in that situation, but maybe it will. But anyway, putting it on yourself before you put it on someone else, right? Um, it makes sense. And I have not been doing that.
Yeah, and it always cracks me up because, if it were that easy, I think we've said this before. I probably say this every session, so forgive me for repeating myself. If it were that easy, you'd be doing it. That's the thing about that, like when I'm sitting in a plane and they say the same thing, put the mask on yourself before you put it on your young child. And I think that's not what parental instinct is. We go, ah, and panic, right? Like,
Right.
it's so counterintuitive to what we need, what we think we need to do. And so sometimes dialing that back, have a list of all of the self-care things that you need. You had talked previously about really watching, the amount of sleep you get, making sure you're getting your exercise and yoga in, drinking water, watching your diet. That helped made your mood improve, right? And so making sure you had time with your friends and having that support system. So these were all things that worked for you pre-baby. So
Right.
what are things that you can implement post-baby? And again, if it were that easy, you'd be doing it, right? And there's no time. I mean, now there's just no time. So is it something where, you know, everybody has tummy time and even though you have a toddler around, right, where you all sit on the floor and everybody just has a 5 minute stretch time or maybe there's some physical play with the kids just so you get your body moving, right? Being able to say to your partner, your husband, I need to tap out for 10 minutes, right? I need a break. And then you can take a break. Calling your girlfriend and saying, can you please just come over and hang out with the baby so I can take a 10-minute shower and wash my hair. And I know it sounds trite, right? These things are so difficult because we want to be super mom. We want to be able to do it all.
Right. I used to really love like going to a yoga class because that was really important to me. Sometimes I would go 2 classes in a day before kids, before or after work. And it was a huge self-care, and it helped me get through the depression I was feeling after, the miscarriages, and it helped me kind of reconnect my body and all of these things. Right. Um, I've lost that because there's just no time, as you said. Um, and I haven't done it in forever. And, my husband said the other day, he's like, just put on a video and just do a video then. And he goes, and I go, but yeah, but it's not as good. But kind of I'm thinking about what you said, like the good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's needed right now. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not the best, but is it good enough? And maybe I think that's one thing I need to do. I think I know that would make me happy. And even just talking about it and the idea of moving through the motions of like a yoga video makes me feel good.
Okay. So, you know, to recap what we've been talking about today, right, is really implementing a lot more self-care
Yeah.
and working through those should statements. So when the shoulds are coming up, right? It's the shoulda, woulda, coulda. And you'll hear it as if then. You know, if I had more time, I'd be a better mom. If I was more engaged with work, I'd be a better employee or a better manager, right? It's very polarized statements. And so tracking when you're hearing that in your head, this if then, that you're really in that all or nothing thinking, right? And so it's hard to get out of the perfectionism when that black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking is happening. And so starting to see if you can catch it. And again, not easy. It's an easy concept to understand, really hard to do. So see if you can catch it. And if you can catch it, then that other skill about thought stopping, right? Stop, take a breath. Okay, what do I need to do next? Right? And then for you, that grace and space. And so coming back to these four concepts, and if they work, cool. If they don't work, then there are so many other things. And so part of it is tracking that sadness of, okay, when this isn't working, like I have these skills, I've been doing therapy, I know what I'm supposed to do, right? Notice that's part of that should cycle, right? So it's like, this is really hard for me. And then we look at, okay, what do we need to do next? Or what do we need to do instead? So that's that grace piece, because it's not easy, it's not simple, and it can be very painful, right? And especially with all of the trauma, you're still working through that too, right? And so sometimes allowing the space for that to be okay. It's okay that I'm sad. It's okay that I have these traumatic experiences, and it's okay that that kind of coincides or is co-occurring, right? Happening at the same time with all of the wonderful happy moments, right? So see, before we see each other again, how that feels to you, and if you notice that when you catch it, it's easier to stop it, or is it happening so often that it's hard to keep track of? Does that make sense?
That does, right? Okay. That
Cool.
does make sense. Yeah.
Any questions for me, or questions, concerns, complaints?
No, I think it's great to be back. I think this will obviously help, just having someone to talk to, also another, mom to talk to about these things, and to not feel so isolated, right? That these
Good.
feelings are normal.
Yeah.
So
Good. Good, good. Well, it's nice to see you too, and keep fighting the good fight, and I will see you next week.
yes, see you next week.
Cool. Well, thanks, Switch Live viewers. I know we always have questions in the chat, so we'll let our amazing Switch moderator, Amit, ask us some questions, and then Sarah and I can do our best to respond to them.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Question and answer portion of the show. Alyssa wants to know, how can you tell if postpartum sadness and stress is more severe, and what are signs that you should seek help?
Alyssa just went for the big question right away. Thanks, Alyssa, for asking that. That's such a great question. I'm going to start off, and then I'll turn it over to Sarah. So between 50 and 75% of new mothers between the first and the fourth day after giving birth have what they would call baby blues, right? There's this huge hormone shift, and that sadness and depressive like feelings set in. And typically what we say is, that lifts over the next several weeks. doesn't mean it automatically goes away, but it becomes a little bit less sad, less overwhelming. It's a huge amount of guilt with that. Moms will often say that, this is the happiest time of my life and I want to cry because I don't know what to do, or I miss the fact that I can't go to work, or I miss my friends, my body's changed. And so it's this very difficult time. And so, really, to answer your question, there's a difference between what we traditionally call baby blues, or this interim period where hormones are shifting so rapidly and that sadness is a component, versus postpartum. 1 out of every 8 women suffer from postpartum depression, and that's typically 6 weeks or more after giving birth. It doesn't always show up right away, and it's traditionally more depressive like symptoms. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah too.
Yeah. I think, first and foremost, we need to kind of understand that you have a significant life change when this little person comes into your world, right? As Joe said, like, your physical body's changing, your emotional self is changing, you're responsible for this person. They are, I like to joke and call them like the first couple month, like they're just like this weird little alien that just eats and breathes and poops and like that's it. But you're so madly in love with it. But it's a huge life change. And with any life change, adjustment is necessary and needed. And so when we have this adjustment, great, no problem. It's okay to feel anxious. Like anything that's new, it's going to feel a little anxious. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable. But as time goes on, if you are still feeling this, 4 or 5 months, 6 months down the road, and you just feel like you're not getting a hang of it, and the depression just feels overwhelming, and it's just impacting your daily functioning, that's when we want to, where we would refer you to a clinician, we would refer you to a doctor to get checked out, right? And so, I mean, that's how I would kind of frame it.
Shelby says, I'm on the fence about having kids, needing some guidance on how to make this decision.
Oh, Shelby. I hear you. I'm kind of looking away because that's a really it's a really great question, and it's a really hard one, and I don't believe that there's a right answer. I think that there's a right answer for each individual person. And so, I would say that's a great question to bring into a therapist and really explore, what are your hopes and dreams? What are your values? What are your fears? Children absolutely impact your life positively and negatively. And so for some people, they decide that that's not their destiny. It's not what they want for their life. They don't need to have children to feel fulfilled. And other people feel that they want the legacy, they want that connection, they want the experience of parenthood. So I think it's a really personal question, and I don't think there's a one size fits all model. Sarah, you got some thoughts on that one?
No, I agree with you. It really truly has to be your personal decision. And you should never feel pressure from a partner, from family members, from friends to, go in one direction or the other. And because at the end of the day, as a mom, it really does begin and end a lot with you. And so it's a personal decision. Don't ever feel pressured to go into it, would be my one piece of advice, and do it when you're ready. And, the other little piece of this is that sometimes people are always questioning, well, when is the right time? Right. And I think that's still it's very personal. Sometimes life and situations happen and it's presented to you, and other times it's a planned event, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, is this something that you want? And listening to your gut, right? Listening to your gut and listening to what's going to work for just you.
Yeah.
Jenny says, what are some ways you can prioritize self-care as a new mom?
Yeah. Mine are, Sarah, I'll let you start because mine are like,
Yeah.
they are out of the house.
Yeah. So, currently my kids are 5 and 3. Um, and, I have a few years under my belt. And what I've learned over the last, let's say 5 years, right, when it's come to motherhood, is that if you are not doing something for yourself, you're not going to be the best mom that you can be. And I've had to really push against the grain when it comes to that to implement the self-care. So, for instance, one thing that I will sometimes do, I have to pick my kids up by 5 o'clock at the preschool. I'll wait till 5 o'clock to pick them up until preschool. I'll wait and I'll drive around the block for a few more times because I just got done with my workday, to take some me time, to listen to the song that has the cuss words in it. So my kids don't pick up on that, right? Something for myself. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to say that you are worth it. I think as moms, sometimes we don't necessarily feel like taking that time for self-care makes us worth it. And we are. And we need to say that often, all the time, and implement it and put our money where our mouth is and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Amen, sister. I did not do this well. So mine are older. They're 20 and 22. I didn't do it well, for many reasons. I don't know if I still do it well. I don't actually think I do it all that well. And part of it for me was the mom guilt was so overpowering. And I felt ashamed if I were to take, any time for myself. And it took a lot of support. It took a lot of therapy, to work through that. And even then, I don't know how well I did it, but it really comes down to, yeah, if it's 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes of screen time so I can wash my hair, then that's what it's going to be today. And that has to be okay. If it means that, we are ordering food, if again, Sarah talked about privilege earlier, if, I have the privilege to do that, then that's what it meant. And the world was not going to end. I promise you the sky will not fall. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but sometimes for me, it took that level of ridiculousness to say, okay, is the sky going to fall? Because if the sky's going to fall, I need to do something right now. And no, the sky's not going to fall. The kids are going to be fine watching 10 more minutes of TV while I take a shower. So it's really giving yourself permission to take a few extra minutes because the kids are going to be fine. The reality is the children will be fine, yes. Right? We as moms won't be, or parents. If there's dads listening or caregivers listening, it really is a caregiver parental statement. We as caregivers will not be okay if we don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
Ian asks, I'm a new father. What are some ways that I can best support my wife when she's experiencing feelings of mom guilt?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think it really is effective communication, I statements, and asking what your role is. And this is whether it's fathers, again, fathers, partners, caregivers, being able to say, I'm here for you. What can I do for you? What do you need from me? What's my role? Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to help you problem solve? Can I make suggestions? Because sometimes what people need is they just need somebody to listen and vent, and they don't necessarily need it to be fixed. And other times it's, no, I need your help. Like, can you please just change the diapers, right? Sarah, you've got some other thoughts?
I'm thinking back to a memory, and I think I highlighted this earlier, that my first date night when my daughter was born, our first child, was when she was 9 months old. And my husband says, get in the car. We're going to go for a drive. And he knew what I needed outside. He knew what I needed and when I didn't know what I needed. And he drove my daughter to my best friend's house so we could, and he dropped the baby off, and he surprised me with our first date night. And we just went to a movie 5 minutes down the road. Then we went and, got a little food and came back. We were back within 3 hours. If you don't sometimes it's also just kind of taking a little bit of, for me, it was nice that he took a little bit of control in that respect. And it was helpful. And it helped kind of just give a little perspective that, again, the world is not going to end if I'm not with my baby or my kiddo 100% of the time. And this is just as important, which is taking care of, me and you. So that way we can be the best, caregivers for this little person that we created, right? Or that we're taking care of, whatever, however, your world looks.
Yeah.
For the last question of the Q&A, we have one from the Instagram, which is @Switch Research across all platforms. Zoe asks, what are some tools to help with intrusive thoughts / flashbacks regarding PTSD?
Okay. This is it's a great question, and it's a very complicated question, because PTSD it's isolated to whatever the traumatic incident or complex PTSD incidents are. And so if we, just for the sake of argument, were to say, or Sarah, if I can just use from our earlier podcast, if Sarah was presenting with PTSD from the loss of her earlier miscarriages, and she talked about rainbow babies, which are babies born after miscarriage, and we both have them, so they hold a special place in our heart. So sometimes you hear the language that we start using, that helps reframe what's going on with those intrusive thoughts. So, we talk about rainbow babies intentionally. It helps redefine that intrusive thought when the focus becomes on, I lost these babies, and now I have this baby, and I'm supposed to be happy, and I have all of these intrusive thoughts. It was part of why I was asking her about anxiety and shame, because I'm checking to see what the trauma response is. Is she getting stuck in how she's feeling about it based on what she's currently experiencing, or is she getting stuck in what she's feeling about it based on past experiences? So when it comes to PTSD and intrusive thoughts, it really comes down to identifying what the triggers are, really understanding what the traumatic event is that's being re-triggered, and then working with that thought stopping and therapy, and really going to therapy. But it is skills based. And so there's a couple of different models that people can use to help learn those, thought stopping techniques. But it's a very complicated question. I hope I gave you a decent answer. Sarah, you have any other ideas or?
No, I think, exactly what you said is that it's thought stopping. It's looking how that intrusive thought is coming up. When is it coming up? Tracking it, right? Does it only happen in the morning, or does it only happen when you're doing this one thing, right? Not to say you want to avoid that, but you also, it's really great information to take to a therapist or to a doctor, that it's only happening at this point, at this moment. It's only happening at this time period. Because the therapist is trying to put together the pieces to the puzzle. And then again, what Joe said, just, trying to access different therapy options so that way you can get the help and support that you need.
Yeah. I remember, you were talking about your first date after, your daughter was born. I remember going out for dinner, or even in a business meeting, and having my phone turned on at full volume on the table, because I was so afraid that if I was out of touch for 1 second, something catastrophic would happen to the children. And it took some time to unravel that in therapy, but that really was coming from the traumatic losses and my other trauma that I had had. And that was the trigger, even though I had never been a mother before, and this was my first baby. There was enough there about the fear and anxiety for me that it kept tripping, I kept tripping into the PTSD and the trauma pieces. And so part of it was learning how to, okay, can I keep my phone on the table, but can I turn it on silent, right? Would that make me feel better? And then eventually, could I put the phone in my purse? Did I have to have it on silent? And so there's little details like that versus really, really important details about something very specific about the trauma that somebody is re-experiencing every day. And so really understanding where it's coming from and being very careful to not get stuck in those why questions. Anytime you ask why, you're going to recycle through the traumatic experience. And so part of it is stopping those intrusive thoughts by moving into what do I need to do for myself right now? Instead of going into why am I feeling this way, or why am I thinking about this?
Right.
Great. They're great questions.
I have a question from Tess in chat. I'm learning the ropes of being a stepmom. It's confusing to play the role of mom, but not actually be his mom. Do you have any advice or insight into how to feel less uncomfortable?
Yeah, so some of it is the co-parenting relationship that that his parents have, and then how you fit into that. And so what we do know is families that are really successful with co-parenting, whether that is one home, whether that's multiple homes and multiple step parents, communication, open dialogue, and being consistent, and then also knowing what your spouse wants from you. What role are you supposed to take? And we get into that supposed to, and I don't mean the should language. What is the that your spouse expecting from you? So some people will say, I want you to be supportive, but I don't want you to be the disciplinarian. So getting very clear with what your guidelines are and what your role is, and then it's boundary setting. So when you're noticing that this is outside of my comfort level and it's crossing my boundaries, that you're able to talk about that. There's some great books out there, support groups. Co-parenting support groups, step parenting support groups are really helpful. And because you get to talk to other people that are experiencing the same thing. It's like, oh, how are you doing it in your home? No problem. Thank you all so much again for coming. Please make sure you leave us comments. We love the comments. We read them all. Stay tuned and follow the links so you get the free gift from Switch, which is my favorite part. And then we get to wrap this up next week. So same time, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard, and on Friday, and we talk about parenting and relationships.
Yes. Thanks so much, everyone.
sick.